Okay, this is a lap of Road Atlanta. This is a reference lap just to show me what markers I've been using. Okay, we're just about to cross the start-finish line, going down into the first corner, obviously. Nothing much to see here, so we'll just advance it. Now, as we come here, the track on the left starts to change in colour. It starts to darken, and then there's a lighter patch. The idea here is to start braking as you hit that darker patch. If you brake a little bit further along, which is the temptation, then you struggle to get onto the apex in control. So as the track surface darkens, brake there and then turn in, and making sure that you get onto the apex. Turn in is just where I think it's where there's a little bit of a kink in the white line down the left hand side. That indicates where you start to turn in. From then on, make sure you get tight on the apex, under control. You can roll out a fair bit to the left, get on the gas as early as you can, a little bit kind of midway across the track. You don't want to go the whole way across the track, but you want to have enough space that you can then turn into the chicane section. So here we go. See, on the chicane, accelerating up. Now this is what I'm looking for. This is the picture I'm looking for. You can see the tree on the left, the kind of a V-shaped tree. You want to see the base of that tree and just a little bit more of the base of it below that, just a fraction more, and you've got to turn in fairly hard to get yourself lined up on the curb at the start of the chicane. You're at what, for the first turn you're in third gear, so you come up here, put it into fourth. Again, I'm going to turn here, get as tight as I possibly can on the curb, go down to third gear. You got to brake quite hard, get it really slowed down for the right, for the turn on the right. You got to be careful for the right turn that you don't take too much of the curb, which will give you a 1x. From there you want to be accelerating as quickly as you can through the corner. So look for that tree, look for a little bit more of that emerging underneath the tree above the road, and then turn in hard. It's a corner where you have to drive it a lot to really get the feel for it, because you're looking at the markers, but it's driving it so many times that it becomes automatic, because you're turning in left before you see the corner. And then, as I said, the important thing is, a really crucial thing is to get tight on the left, on the curb on the left as much as you possibly can, and get brake down hard, then turn right. The more curb you take as you take that right turn, the more you'll be slowed down. So you've got to be very careful of that. Okay, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to make sure that it's very easy to use a lot of power coming through the chicane and end up having to be really slow as you're trying to line up for the S's. You're pushing it up into fourth gear here. Get wide left as much as you can towards the curb. You have to really modulate the throttle as you go through this section. The temptation is to use the brake through here. If you use the brake, it slows you down. It really does slow you down. You're losing time. So you've got to get into a position where you're turning in as you need to. You're getting onto the curbs in the S's. You can use these curbs quite well through here. Modulate the throttle. Avoid the brake unless you really have to use it. So you're getting wide left here. You're getting onto that curb a little bit as you take the right turn, and then as you turn the left, you want a little bit of the curb, right, maybe a little bit of the curb, or at least tight onto it. The trick at the top of the S's is to make sure that you stick wide right, that you don't have the temptation to drift inside. You want to be as wide right as possible, for that turn. Now this is what I'm talking about. As you come towards the top of the S's, you don't want to be on the left or in the middle. You want to try to get as wide right, as tight on this curbing as you possibly can, so that you've got a good line on exit for the straight. On exit of this turn, you do not want to take too much of that runoff. You want to be exiting on the track. Your wheels want to be tight on the curbing, but you don't want to be taking too much of the curb on exit, because it unsettles the car, bounces it around, and it will really slow you down. Okay, here there's just before the dash line, there's a lighter coloured surface. Now just as you're about to hit that slight discoloration, that is where you brake. Not on that point, but just fractionally before it. It's imperative that you brake just at that right moment in order to make sure that you can brake hard down into second gear and rotate around this corner. If you try to brake a little bit later than that, it can be a real struggle to get around this. But you've really got to make sure, as soon as you hit that, you've got to go straight down, third, second, and get really, or is it actually down to fourth, down to third in fact. But as soon as you get to third gear, you really have to turn hard and rotate around that curb. Once you've rotated around that curb, it's about getting wide left. You've got a really brief application of power. You've got to be very careful that you don't give it too much power. But for this corner, brake just fractionally as you're about to reach that slightly lighter part of the track, and down into third gear really quickly, and then rotate around the curb as tight as you can. Now you see what I mean here, there's a slight application of power. The curbing on the left, you want to be turning in just either as you hit the top of that or just slightly before it. The key here is to rotate around that curb. Now here I'm too far wide, I'm too far right, I need to be really a lot closer to the curb. If you're really tight on the left curb, you've got a much better angle to attack the corner. But the key here is not to stay on the gas too long. Just a fraction too long really kills your exit. But watch that curb on the left, and watch where I'm going to actually start to turn in on that. It's very important to turn in at the right moment. You don't want to brake too early, but you don't want to leave your braking too late and end up not being able to turn in properly. Important as you come around that corner, as you rotate around it, to start feeding in the gas and be as hard as possible on the gas as early as you can, but be aware of spinning on exit. Okay, now this is the chicane, which is the most difficult corner on the track, and also perhaps the most important. Okay, you see the dash line here. There's a further dash line about 100. Now that would probably be the skippy brake point. You can't use that at all in the C-Spec. There's a slight discoloration, kind of a line of discoloration that goes right to left across the track in that kind of valley, as that kind of midway down that valley that you can see there. You're trying to hit that. You're trying to, just as you kind of see that clearly, that's when you start to brake. You can also brake when you're about a car length past the dashed line. That's probably a good start point. But once you start to brake, you've got to really be very hard on it. You're at 6th gear right now, so you've got to go down 4 gears or possibly 3. Most people seem to take this in second. I'm not convinced. I seem to do better in 3rd gear than second. But whether it's 3rd or second, brake very hard, really. I mean, especially in the last bit, in that last bit as you come into your turning point, really squeeze down hard on the brake. You won't be able to go quite that hard for let's say 75% of the brake distance, but for maybe the last 25% you really have got to absolutely squeeze that brake down. You've got to take the left turn, you've got to take as much of the curbing as possible, and the objective then is to try to get a wide entry for the right-hander, and then you're feeding in gas, you're allowing yourself to drift wide left onto that curbed area, onto the rumble strip, and just gradually feeding the power in. I've not been able to do it right, but I think when you do it right, you're gradually feeding the power all the way in from that right hand turn, up the hill, onto the curbing and exiting. Now on top of that hill, you might need a slight lift because the car tends to get light over there. From here you're edging towards the left, you're trying to get a wide approach to the last corner. So don't be afraid to do a slight lift. You want to be applying the gas in this section. Actually you want to be lifting a little bit, you don't want to be absolutely hard on it in this section. When you get to that turning point you want to be flat, you want to be really hard on the gas as you're taking the corner. You don't want to be lifting as you come around that last corner. You want that speed there and also for the start of the next lap. So obviously you're exiting onto a straight, so as you come over the top of it, it might get light, slight lift. Be very conservative with the gas until you get to the end of, in fact you can get onto the rumble strip on the left a little bit to improve your angle. But when you turn in onto that final corner, you have got to be feeding in the gas as hard as you possibly can. You want to be tight on the apex, being mindful of taking too much of the rumble strip on exit, and because that's a very easy way to either pick up a 1x or just completely go off the track. And that's the lap of Road Atlanta. It is quite an easy track to get wrong. It's quite an easy track to get the car unsettled over rumble strips. As a result of that, you'll see quite a bit of incidents in races. People will go off, people try to get on the power too early. The big corner is the chicane. You really have to get that right. It's worth so much time, and that's really the section of the track that I really struggle with the most. Probably lose about half a second through there, but a great track and a really good feeling track in the rough.